Are about to visit the oldest residence in Melbourne, a house that goes back to the gold rush. Well, Simon, it was about a month ago that Jo Hall had a fascinating story on the Weekend News on 9, where she went to the home of Lola Russell and George Dickson, and there on a corner there in La Trobe Street, opposite the Flagstaff Gardens, you probably know the old white stone building. I think it might have been a hospital 100 years ago, but they've lived there for 50 years in a tea shop, and not only are they identities because they're living in the oldest residence in the city of Melbourne, but they're also movie stars and TV stars as well. Welcome to Lola Russell and George Dickson. Lovely to meet you both.
Oh,
thank you, Philip.
That's lovely to meet you both, and thank you very much for coming in. It's an honour to meet you, because I think in looking on the internet and watching 7 news stories and things, you guys are far more famous than Phil will ever be.
Oh, no, that's not
Where did you both meet? Where did you meet each other, Lola?
We met at the Melbourne University when we were students.
Yes.
They were doing Romeo and Juliet.
And you did that together?
No, we weren't in it. But I came late and stumbled over a dozen people and finally sat in the only seat that was vacant, and it happened to be next to George.
And what year would that have been?
About 1946.
Oh, how romantic is that?
Yes. Philip, did you want to hear my version? I came late, and it was raining, and I saw a spare seat in the distance. This is true, it's not apocryphal. And I tripped over the umbrella and landed in her lap, for crying out loud.
Now, you'd obviously come out from Britain earlier, had you?
The Dickson, see, there's a bit of the Viking in them, up from Durham. I learned once that my father was actually arrived in the country in the womb of his mother.
Best way to travel.
That's it. Yeah, not room, womb.
Oh,
yeah. And so when did you make your way to Australia, and why?
No. I was born here.
Oh,
I was born in Ballarat. That's where the Dickson family is.
Really? Because you sound very British to me.
Oh, yeah.
It must be the actor in you.
Now, tell us about the acting career. Where did that start? I mean, you met by tripping over and landing in Lola's lap, which is a great way to introduce yourself. But you both ended up in movies and TV shows. How did that come about?
Well, I was well and truly established at the university because I was on the committee for the students section. And I was well and truly doing shows. So when I met Georgie, I got him interested in it. That's how that came about.
You organised these play readings, remember? Play readings. Yes.
Yes.
But I understand you've actually done movies together as well.
Oh, we have.
Tell us about this.
Yes.
Well,
come on.
They're not very great movies, are they? We were in, what was that first one?
They're on the beach. There's
on the beach.
Tell us what you did on the beach.
We had a small section of one line or so.
Were you in that together?
Yes. We lined up for the tablets.
Oh, how depressing.
On the beach. That's right.
On the beach.
And did you get the chance to meet Gregory Peck or Fred Astaire or Ava Gardner?
Not personally.
No, not really.
Where was your scene shot?
On the steps up at the
the public library.
That's right.
State library.
Yeah.
Now, a television series as well. Was it Homicide or something?
Yes, all those, and
I did a few.
Yeah.
Consider Your Verdict and all the falling sets and all the rest of it. God, yes. Went through the whole gamut of all those.
We talked about Hector Crawford's life a couple of weeks ago. Did you have any personal contact with him at all, Hector Crawford? Did you ever meet
Crawford.
Hector?
Oh, yes.
Yes?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yes?
A very fine fellow.
Yes, he was. He had a great name, didn't he?
He did,
and
indeed.
did so much for Australian talent. This theme from Homicide will be familiar to you both. And now, George, tell me if I'm wrong, but Consider Your Verdict was a very early Crawford production. Looked like it was done on the cheap. But I was told that the actors ad-libbed their lines rather than read from a script. Is that how it happened?
I think I can recall one episode. I actually escaped from the dock. Yeah. And I was running around outside the rehearsal room and all that. It was crazy. It was a little bit on the amateur side, and no doubt things improved in time as they do.
Now, you're being very modest. You mentioned On the Beach. What other movie credits do you have, Lola? What other films did you make?
Other films.
Can you recall? Or can George prompt you, perhaps?
What?
George, tell us. Which one?
Clay.
I don't know that one.
Yes, yes.
I don't remember that.
No, that was an amateur production.
Okay.
Put on by Giorgio Mangiamelli.
All right.
That film director.
Oh, yes. And have you done any live theatre together?
Oh, yes.
Oh, God, yes.
Tell us.
Well, I started a small little theatre company.
Yes.
Lola Russell Productions.
Yes.
And we've done a number of plays.
Right. And there'll be people listening tonight who just love hearing your voices again, I think. You know, obviously you've retired from the stage now, have you?
Oh, no. If I ever get a chance, I'll take it.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Good on
Oh, good to hear.
It's the exact same as Phil. He keeps hoping that Grundy's will ring him with a TV show.
Of course.
I think it's unlikely because Reg passed away a year ago, but still, you never know your luck. Now, we should get on to the main reason why Lola and George are here tonight.
This fabulous, wonderful, iconic house. When we look at the city of Melbourne, it's all big, ugly, high-rise concrete things and glass and metal and things like Federation Square, which is an abomination.
It is indeed.
But you guys live in the most beautiful little white house in the city grid. I think that's a marvellous thing.
Yes.
What's the history of that house? When was it first built?
1850.
Yeah?
Pre-gold rush.
Oh,
50,
pre-gold.
yeah, 50.
About a year before
come
the
on.
gold.
Gee, it was built to last, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. If you look past the cracks, there's a lot of cracks in the side.
An Irishman built it.
Oh, yes? Was it at one time a hospital?
Yes, it was. You were quite right
Maternity.
on that.
A maternity hospital.
Yes.
Really? What was it originally, Lola? Do we know what it was? Was it built as a residence for somebody wealthy?
No. It was always a commercial sort of little square.
And I imagine it might have been on a larger acreage back in those days, perhaps.
Well,
Heffernan, yes,
they
had the whole block.
There might have been stables.
James Heffernan.
Could have been stables at the back for all we know now.
Oh, we could have. Oh, it could easily have been.
So when did it become a hospital? Was that fairly early on?
No, around about 1880.
Okay.
Around about then.
And a maternity hospital, you say?
A maternity, yes.
Can we, for those who aren't familiar with the area, can we pinpoint whereabouts in La Trobe Street it is? Which corner is it?
Corner of King and La Trobe, southeast corner.
Right, opposite the Flagstaff Gardens.
Opposite, look, yes, one of the best views in the city.
I know, you've got your own park.
That's really
Do you have animals? Do you have pets?
Yes, certainly.
A
We
cheeky
have a
little
dog
Pekingese.
called William,
Oh, well,
a Pekingese.
Well, he'd love the park opposite, wouldn't he?
Oh, he
Flagstaff Gardens.
does. And George makes sure he gets a couple of walks a day.
Yeah.
Lovely. And yes, perfect place right across the road from the gardens. It's
That's
wonderful.
right.
Now, so how did you guys come to be involved with that house? Where does that date back
And
to?
it comes through me.
Yes.
My
That's a party. Come on.
my grandfather.
Your grandfather?
Yeah, he bought it. We bought a small shop in the turn of the century.
So
Yes.
around the 1900s, yeah?
Yes.
All right.
And
How much was it, Lola?
oh, it was about £800. It was a lot of money.
So it's
He had to
been...
borrow from his mother,
So it's-
and it took him 15 years to pay it back.
Oh.
Better than a bank.
Yeah.
So he bought it around the turn of the century, the time of Federation. The house has been in your family since
Exactly.
Federation.
Yes.
Wow, things have changed so much since then. So were you born in that house yourself?
No, I
or
wasn't.
No?
But I came very soon after.
Yeah.
Was it in the women's hospital up in William
Oh, I
Street?
wasn't born in the women's
Christ,
hospital.
sorry.
Come on, George, get
I'm
it
not
right.
good on maternity issues.
things wrong,
I
George.
missed out.
And so, okay, through the years, where did you go to school in the city?
Well, I went to, first of all, I went up to St James, the
Kindergarten.
kindergarten.
Sorry to
Yes, I
prompt
went to
you,
the
but I'm still a
kindergarten.
pillar of the church, as you know.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I went to the state school,
Errol Street.
And I went Errol Street
No,
second.
King Street.
I went to King Street first,
Yes.
and then I went on. What happened was the Robinson Girls High School,
Yes.
they took over my state school.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, because they were building their own and they had no one and nowhere else to go.
Yes.
So they closed us down and
And McRobertson's moved in.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they took it on
Yes.
for about...
And so, Lola, when you left school, did you do a business course at all?
no, I didn't.
What did you do when you left school?
I didn't, no.
Did you go
Mum
into acting?
wanted me to do something professional.
Yes.
So I went on to University High School,
Yeah.
which was brilliant school in my day, really brilliant. And I was there till I was 18. That was the leaving age.
Yes.
And yeah, well, I finished then.
Yeah. And what were you doing at the time, George?
I was getting ready to take off, and I started at Prahran when I left boarding school.
And when was that?
That was going right back to the beginning. I joined up at 18, and
You were at the Geelong.
number 1 Squadron Prahran, and took a flying course.
Had you been at Geelong Grammar, Geelong College? Geelong Grammar, yeah.
Grammar, yes.
They didn't have timber top in those days, did they?
No, they did not. No, the prince hadn't arrived yet.
And so,
A flying course. Did you become a pilot?
Wireless operator air gunner. That's why I'm interested in all this rather advanced equipment for what
okay, yes.
to use flying around. Can I just mention one of my contacts? I doubt if you've ever met the lady, but I'm one of the few people who's actually heard Tokyo Rose.
oh, wow. The spy.
Now that dates me.
The spy.
No, she broadcast. She boosted the Americans, telling them they're about to end the war and fail, and the Australians are not much better. Yeah. It's hard to keep in keeping with Rio and all our success now. But Tokyo Rose, she was lovely to hear up there in the ether, flying around in the Southwest Pacific as I was doing that.
Yes.
And my pilot was a good fella. He used to converse, not with all this sort of fantastic equipment. He had between the gunner and the pilot there was a little thing, a message, and he would send it because I was never much of an operator. That's why. And so he would send messages back to me to tell me what to do and where to drop the bombs. And
Yeah, well, of course, she was a traitor like Lord Haw-Haw, wasn't she? Was she hanged after the war, or what happened to her?
I don't know, to be honest.
And so where did you see active service, George?
In the Southwest Pacific, Trobans, Kirrawina, Trobriand Islands.
Okay, was that
22 Squadron.
in the Pacific, was it?
Yes, Pacific.
Okay.
Yes.
So you would have been close to the Americans, and you all would have been in that together.
Yes, indeed. We flew in their aircraft called a Boston low-wing, medium attack bombers and all that.
I'm glad you survived. Are you aware, Simon, that these days where Lola and George live, it's a quaint little tea room today?
Well, yes, I didn't want to get to that just yet. So I wanted to find out, okay, so George has been flying and operating the equipment there.
Yeah.
That was after that you and Lola met? I'm just trying to get the timeline happening here.
Oh, yes.
So,
after the war.
So you'd come back from the war. And what year was it that you met again?
About 1946.
46. So it was shortly after that you met. So you'd gone from being born up in
Ballarat, yes.
Yes, and you've then gone to Geelong to go to school.
That's right.
You've flown off for the war.
That's right.
And you've come back. Were you living in Melbourne at this time? In 1946 when you met Lola?
Oh, yes. Eastern Kilda.
So we didn't know each other.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. Now we'll take a break and we'll come back and find out a bit more about. We know how you met, but we want to know how it eventually happened. You ended up living happily ever after in this fabulous house.
Yeah, we're talking to Lola Russell and George Dickson, and they live in a home in Melbourne that goes back to the Gold Rush days.
Within the city of Melbourne, at 330 King Street, there is a little white, well, it's not little, but it's compared to the skyscrapers around, it certainly is, a little white building that belongs to Lola and George. They live there, and you can also drop in and have lunch. And we have Lola and George in studio with us at the moment. And we're up to 1946, where George has returned from the war. He's now been to a theatre production, tripped over in the aisle, tripped over an umbrella, and landed on Lola. And the start of a beautiful friendship and relationship has begun. Where did it go from there, Lola? Did you instantly see this man as the man you wanted to spend your life with?
No, not really. I had made up my mind that I would be settling with anyone at that stage. I only had the idea to go overseas, and I didn't want to get involved.
Yes.
So I was pretty much distant.
So, George, how did you win her hand? How did you win her over?
Well, I chased her, really, because she skipped off and finished up in London, and I decided to end my arts course at Melbourne and take the ship, the Maloya, and sail away, and we met up in London, Park Royal Hotel, and I was found sitting in the main lounge eating a green apple, which rather put her off, because
so was it love at first bite?
You win that one. It seemed to, but it had a lot of sort of funny sort of we tried to observe the proprieties, and Lola, we lived in Chelsea, and I lived in after Cambridge. I should have mentioned that, I suppose, but I got into a university, not quite the back door, but I got into I'm very proud to be there. Fitzwilliam House, as it was then. Anyway, Lola went off and pursued her theatrical career, trained at the Webber Douglas School in London, did a lot of touring, and I met up, sometimes actually visited her doing her shows in Wales and Rhyl and such places as that. Remember, we had the trips up there, and she lived in a place in Chelsea just down from me. Yeah, and we stayed there for about 8 or 10 years or something like that.
And
hitchhiked in the continent all around, and generally lived it up.
And did you marry there? Or
No.
Are you married, or have you been shacked up living in Sin all these years?
No. We observed the proprieties, as I said, and we waited till we got back home, sailed
Yes,
back again in 1956, actually. If you
And what, those 9 years in England, were you doing any TV work or radio work in those days?
What we could.
Yes.
What was available. It was pretty tough.
I think since you've come, I've seen you on commercials too over the years, haven't I?
Yes.
You've done. What are some of the ads I've seen you on TV?
Ads?
Yes, commercials.
Oh, forgotten.
Do you remember them? But you have such a familiar face to me.
Yes, I have done a few commercials.
Yes, I
you're
thought
right.
so. Yeah. George, your voice is just so mellifluous. I could listen to it. Well, I'd love to hear you do some Shakespeare for me.
Now tell us about the wedding. When was the wedding, and where was the wedding, and who was there?
Here. I wanted to be married with my mum being present,
Yes.
and Dad, and we put it off till we were settled here, and we were married at St James Old Cathedral,
Yes.
and we had the reception in the hall
Yes.
behind the church,
All right. Yes.
and it was very lovely.
Anybody there that we would know? Any well-known actors at your wedding? George, can you recall any names that we might be familiar with?
It was a rather rushed affair, I think.
All right.
You know? We were dithering and wondering whether we should or should not.
Oh, yes.
In fact, our whole life has been sort of question and answer, but we're still together, and that's the ultimate test.
Talking to Lola Russell and George Dickson, our very special guests. Lola, at the time, were you living in King Street, where you are today?
So, so we take it. So, George, you moved in to the house in King Street.
Yeah.
When you married?
Yes. I've been there for about 50 years, I think. Christ.
So was it a coffee shop at that time,
Yes.
Lola?
Yes.
It was.
A coffee shop.
And were your parents running it? Were they?
They were running it. Yes.
Yes.
And at what stage did the two of you take it over?
When Mum died, which was about 1946.
Yes.
Yeah, around about
Goodness
then.
me, all those years ago. And is it what you call a tea shop today, or is it a restaurant? How big is it?
No, it's only small. It's a tea shop.
Yes.
Really, afternoon teas, morning teas.
How lovely. How many days a week would that be?
Mondays to Fridays.
Oh, okay. Take
My
the
way.
That's enough. Now, George, if you'd be good enough, take us on a tour of the home. It's what, 2 stories?
It's a two-story.
Is there a cellar, for example?
Yeah. There is one, but we haven't. We've got the parquetry in the shop itself. You see, if you haven't, I know you haven't been in.
Not yet,
You'll be welcome when you do, of course.
Thank you.
You know where to go, don't you?
Yes, I do. I'd go to 330 King Street on the corner of Latrobe Street. I couldn't miss it.
Yeah,
but what is downstairs, a wine cellar?
It's a shop and a dwelling. That's its sort of official name. Yeah.
Some of the articles I've read where people have gone into the shop, had some lunch and reviewed it, have left with the question, were we just in a shop or a restaurant, or were we in George and Lola's lounge room? So it must be a small, beautiful, intimate setting.
It is.
It's got all these funny old signs. I've pinned them up on the wall, you see.
Yes.
All the, Great Western, tobacco and all
the old billboards.
and also our posters for shows that we've done, because we've done these shows in the shop. We call it a shop theatre. So we do.
Oh, that's only been recently.
The Christmas Carol, because Dickens would have been writing bloody Christmas carols at the time the same place was built.
Yeah,
It's
well,
ideal for
now,
Scrooge.
before we go on with your life story, Sally Williamstown would like to talk to you folks. Sally, say hello to Lola and George, please.
You there, Sally?
Where's Sally? On line 1?
Yeah, we're just checking. No, Sally's dropped out.
Oh, she might ring back again.
Now, I'm fascinated to know that you put on performances in the shop as well. That was something I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, I certainly do.
Is that something you do in advance and advertise, or is it a spur-of-the-moment thing?
Now, I presume it's a 2-story residence. Do you choose to live upstairs?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I answer your question now, Philip? You asked where they lived at the turn of the century, right? And Beatrice became your mother,
My mother,
and
yes.
married George Russell,
That's
and
right.
so it's called Russell's Old Corner Shop.
But you don't have signs outside, do you? I'm not familiar that I've seen any commercial billboards.
No, we don't.
You don't have any signage?
No.
Falls down all the time, and I don't know. I get a bit browned off with all that.
Yeah.
If they want to come in, they'll come in.
We've got to spend a lot of money on doing it up. We know that.
Yeah.
It'll cost them
Well,
thousands.
I would imagine that living in a home that goes back to the 1840s or 1850s, there'd be a lot of expenses with plumbing and electrical and so on. Is that
don't
true?
mention
A lot of maintenance?
A lot.
Yeah.
Our last water
Yes.
bill was $96, for God's sake. Can you imagine that?
That's outrageous.
$96,
Too much,
that's-
isn't it?
Yeah.
$96 sounds reasonable.
No, 960.
Oh, yeah, I thought you said
Sorry,
96.
no.
But you know, at the turn of the century, there would have been horse troughs probably outside your residence. There would have been cable
Well, there's
cars.
still a bollard there.
Yes, there would have been horse-drawn trams way back then.
Yes.
How fascinating. Go back to the days of Cobb and Co. You know?
That's right.
Yeah, back
And
to
they got their supplies from this old joint, going down to the minefields, the gold fields.
And I bet the house was very solidly built. I bet it's built to last. Am I right, George?
Oh, you're right.
Yes, but bricks are handmade, mate. And they've got a limited amount of cohesion because the lime was very expensive in those days.
Yes.
Well, I could tell a story there. It's a little better not.
Okay, fair enough. We'll bow to your better judgment. Now, Lola and George, just wait one moment with us. We're going to take another break. We've got a couple of calls coming through. Have you been to Lola and George's at 330 King Street? Give us a call, 96900 693 if you have, and say hello to Lola and George. Back shortly at 17 to 10. Lola and George are in studio with us. It's a privilege and an honour to speak with you both. And Phil, another question I've got, I know we've got a couple of calls we need to get to, but another question I've got is the changes that the two of you would have seen in the city of Melbourne since 1946 when, George, you joined Lola at the house there. How different is the city now?
Come on, can I answer that?
Yes, or one of them.
I have actually seen cattle being driven down King Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
and sheep.
Going where?
Going to
Twice a week.
Twice a
going
week?
up
you tell
and
them.
going
You
down.
live through it, yeah.
Going where? To the abattoirs, or where were they going?
Yeah.
Newmarket.
Often to
Oh,
the
really?
boats
Oh,
to be shipped off.
how interesting.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
What a memory.
And over the years, have people tried to put in a bid for the house and tried to encourage you to sell it?
It's under the historic building.
Oh, so it will stay in the family. That's
Yes.
nice. If you don't, if I'm not being too personal, just describe the house. Just, I know downstairs is a tea shop. Are you living quarters upstairs?
Yes, we've got a very large
Yes.
Yes.
bedroom and another small one.
Right.
And we have a bathroom.
And is there an attic as well?
Well, I suppose it's that small room, yes.
It's like a little study, and there's a bathroom in between, and there's the main bedroom facing King Street, with the spirits of the past.
We have a
Speaking of
staircase,
spirits, yes.
Eagle
This is.
table.
I'm glad you mentioned the spirits of the past. George, is the place haunted? Is it haunted?
No.
I probably it could be. There's some strange. I hear strange noises. I really do.
Well, that might be Lola.
Now, pop your headphones on. We've got a couple of callers who want to say hello. Pat calls from Dallas. Hello there, Pat.
Yes, Pat. Good evening.
Yeah, hello, and hello, Lola, and everybody there.
Lola and George.
And George, hello, George. I had the pleasure of
Hello
meeting
there.
you a few years back with my husband, Danny. Danny grew up in the area, and he knew Lola as a young woman, and she used to take him to church and Sunday school. And we met there and had a cup of tea and everything and caught up on old times. And it was a pleasure to be in that. And Danny then went back one day with my daughter to meet Lola and George when I was in hospital having a new leg put in or something, and yes, a new hip. So yes, it was a lovely, lovely place, and I often go past it, and yeah, I'm glad it's still going strong. Do you remember, Lola? Do you remember Danny? Danny Davies. Davies.
Danny Davies. Lolly, do you remember Danny Davies from years gone by?
No, I don't.
No.
But thanks for the memories, Pat. That was special.
His mother was Dot. And
Dot.
Mother was Dot, yeah.
she lived in Little London.
Oh, lovely story. Thanks, Pat,
Good
for
on you,
sharing
Pat.
that.
Lovely. Chris is at Nunawading. G'day, Chris.
G'day, how you going?
Good.
Yes, Chris.
Good. We met George and Lola just on Friday.
Oh,
We were the three ladies, George, that just before...
Yes, I remember you, Chris. Yes, yes.
Remember it?
Yes,
Did you
three
get
of
the
you.
movie on
And
time?
that's right. Yes,
Is
yes.
that-
And you promised to come back, and you you were lovely. Yes,
We will
yes.
come back.
You're
and
welcome
we
back.
We had a lovely time. It was a pleasure to meet you. And
I
Lola.
I must get down there, Chris, on your
Good on
recommendation.
you,
You
Chris.
need to get down there. It is just, it's amazing.
That's Sherry, isn't it?
Chris, it's Chris of Nunawading.
Sorry,
This is Chris.
Yes.
this is Chris.
Now, Chris, did you have lunch?
We had a cup of tea and an Anzac biscuit.
Lovely.
And then we had to leave because it was 1 o'clock and they had to go to a movie at 1:30.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
And how was
Right.
how was the service? Was George up to scratch?
Wonderful. He was the most wonderful person, and Lola came and sat with us and had a chat,
How wonderful.
and it is just lovely. You need
Yeah.
to just go down and see it.
All right, good
Beautiful.
recommendation. Thanks, Chris. Lola, do you actually cook meals for people who come in, or
If
is
there were
this...
anything special,
Oh, you will?
yes,
Yeah.
I would do it, yeah.
That's nice.
But I'm not a cook.
Okay.
Yes.